My name is David Ibsen. I'm here with my colleague Matan Shamir. We're from a group called United Against Nuclear Iran. We're based in New York, and we were founded to raise awareness of the threat of a nuclear-armed Iran and to facilitate civic action, personal action, campaigns, give individuals the ability to take action to increase the isolation of Iran, both economically and diplomatically, hopefully, obviously, to prevent them from acquiring the weapons which they would use to threaten the world, to threaten the U.S., and to threaten our allies. I'm really privileged to be here, as is Matan. This is actually, you may not believe it, this is actually, I think, kind of a historical event. There's not many protests that I know of in America where you have concerned Americans protesting outside of corporations, specifically for the reason because they're doing business in America and doing business in Iran. And that's something that's going on here right now. And we're protesting 3 companies in particular that are involved in the shipping industry, Maersk, MSC, and Evergreen. And we're basically asking them all to make a choice. Do they want to do business in the U.S.? Do they want to receive U.S. government contracts? Or do they want to do business in Iran? We think it's a pretty clear choice, one that should have a clear answer. And that's for a number of reasons. The answer should be clear because Iran is a state sponsor of terror. They support Hezbollah, which has killed more U.S. military and civilian personnel than any terror group outside of Al-Qaeda. The reason should be clear because of the human rights violations in Iran. The human rights record there is abysmal. Iran persecutes a wide swath of ethnic and religious minorities, whether they're Jews, Zoroastrians, women, student leaders, labor leaders, whatever it may be. Another reason why it should be clear is because Iran threatens our allies with not just attack, but with decimation and destruction. And finally, a reason why the answer should be clear is because Iran supports insurgents that facilitate attacks on U.S. soldiers that end up in their death and their severe injury. But despite the clarity of what we think the answer should be, companies like Maersk and Evergreen, MSC, they still do business in Iran. Maersk, for instance, receives $4 billion in U.S. government contracts over the last 10 years. 90% of those contracts were for U.S. Department of Defense contracts, believe it or not. At the same time, they're doing business in Iran with entities that are linked to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, which is the premier ideological and military driving force behind the regime. They're receiving our taxpayer money. The same thing is true with the case of MSC, which receives about $13 million in U.S. government contracts. Evergreen as well continues to do business in Iran, despite calls from individuals such as ourselves and from legislation to tell them to stop. They also do business with the IRGC. So based on these kind of different behaviors, it's important that we come out and let individuals know that people are paying attention to these issues. Maersk, Evergreen, MSC, they shouldn't feel that they have the right to do whatever they want with impunity. They should know that people here in their own backyard, good people from Baltimore, are going to hold them accountable for their actions. And if they want to go out and do business with state sponsors of terror and human rights violators, whatever it may be, when they come back to Baltimore, where they're based, the home crowd isn't going to be so pleased with their behavior, so to speak. And it's important that you're doing that kind of message. These corporations provide valuable support to our Iranian economy. They provide sources of investment. They pay foreign income taxes to the Iranian economy, and they provide conduits for technology and services and goods that the Iranians need to develop a nuclear program in their oil industry. And they enable Iran to circumvent sanctions that are in place to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. So I want to just thank you all for coming out here. It's important to note that we have a lot of leverage with these companies. There's fiduciary risks for these corporations doing business in Iran because Iran is subject to punitive sanctions, possible military attack. There's a lot of country risk there. There's also the reputational risk factor, which is very important. These corporations do not want the world to know that they're doing business with Iran, with the world's leading state sponsor of terror, with the massive human rights violator. These kind of campaigns have worked extremely well already with companies as diverse as Caterpillar, KPMG, Ingersoll Rand. All the foregoing have actually stopped their business in Iran because of protests like this. So thank you all very much for coming out. I want to say shame on Maersk, shame on Evergreen, shame on MSC. They need to ship up, they need to ship out. But thank you all for coming out. Appreciate it.